Hey everybody, this is Soger. This is going to be my city-state tier list, and I'll also just describe strategies involving each city-state if it's relevant when I get to them. Before that, let me just get this out of the way. For people who are unfamiliar with me, I play single-player deity or higher difficulty, and my goal every single game is to win in the fewest turns possible. This is important because if you play a more casual game or multiplayer, these strategies or these rankings may not make sense to you because they aren't for the way that you are playing. This is all just, hey, will this city state help you win the game faster? All right, so now let's look at how I'm going to be ranking these city states. One, I'm only going to do our S, A, B, and C tier. S tier is in every situation, you should do everything in your power to get Caesarity of the city state. It is one of the most important things in the game. A tier is in almost every situation, this city state's going to help. B tier is you're situational. If your situation meets its needs, it will help, but there will also be situations where it doesn't help. And then C tier is going to be city states that the only reason to ever get Caesarity of them is for utility purposes, to do a levy war, to get early exploration, stuff like that. When I'm judging these city states, that's going to be judged by how good their ability is length of game, because there's plenty of city states that are very, very good at the end game, but that doesn't matter. The majority of the game is the early mid game, obviously. End game doesn't really have that much effect on the outcome. So it's going to be length of game, how important is their ability, what their ability actually provides, obviously, and finally the general use of the ability. Like, how often are you going to be able to use it? So something that is very situational obviously is going to rank lower than something that will improve every single game. All right, let's get going into the rankings. I'm going to start with what I consider the weakest class of city states, which is the industrial city states. They suffer as a whole, they suffer from not providing anything overall, in my opinion. The problem with them is in the early game, they provide two production to the capital. That is it. If you get one envoy, they provide two production to the capital. If you have six envoys, they provide two production to the capital in the ancient era and the early classical era because their bonus is tied to the industrial zone. As such, the industrial zone is one of the last districts that becomes available. You just aren't going to see as much bonus for it. On top of that, you like industrial zones, in my opinion, are just really a losing investment. I build them for Eurekas and in my capital and spaceport cities because you do want to maximize your production. But by and large, in most victories, you don't want a lot of industrial zones because they aren't going to help you advance to the win as much. The other problem is production is tied to the single city. Why that's a bad thing? Unlike faith and gold and science and culture, which helps your empire as a whole, if you build an industrial zone just to get the Eureka in the city, that's not really important. Your bonus to that isn't really helping you win the game. It's just making an average city, a little bit better, but you're not really producing anything that will win. The final thing that I think just makes industrial city states just not good overall is the production is only for wonders, buildings, and districts. And if you look at when the city state bonuses are paying off the most, it's at the very beginning of the game and at the very end of the game when you have the city state cards from like globalization and stuff like that. But in the very, very early game, your capital isn't going to be making that many buildings or districts. You're generally going to build one district and then you're going to be building a lot of units or just other things. So even if you do find like a lot of industrial city states, you're really not going to see much from that bonus. The first industrial city state is Auckland. And Auckland, what their bonus is it provides one production to coastal and lake tiles pretty much, and then it adds another one production when you reach the industrial era. This, in my opinion, isn't very strong in most games. Now, if you're playing like Kupe, Norway, Indonesia, somewhere where you're going to be building a lot of coastal cities, I would say Auckland is a lot better. But for the vast majority of civilizations, this is just going to be like a nice little bonus. But this wouldn't be something that I'm rushing to get all my envoys out. This is really going to be map and civ dependent on if this city state is going to going to be like a main thing that you want to look at. Because of that, I'm going to rank it in B, which is really, it's a very situational one. It can be a very strong city state. Any city state can be the strongest if it meets your situation perfectly. But in most games, just due to the overall weakness of coastal tiles, that one production isn't going to change much on them. The next city state is going to be Brussels, and this one hurts because I love Brussels, but if you're actually looking at winning the game, it's sort of a mixed bag. If you find Brussels in the very early game, when you're doing like an Apadana rush and you have autocracy and you got Magnus and monumentality builders. Brussels is one of those city states. Whenever I see it, I am excited, but you have to find it early. If it isn't for Apadana or like early classical era wonders, that 15% production bonus to wonders just isn't paying off as much because at that point you're either going to be using great engineers or chopping out. And yes, 15% is nice, but when you're ranking it up against some of the other city states, that just, it suffers from the fact that the reality is most wonders just don't provide enough to invest the production in anyways. So getting 15% more production towards those wonders, as much as I like it, and if you watch my games, anytime I see Brussels, I'm excited, but I do have to rank it based off winning, and that's going to be in B category as well, where yeah, it can provide a bonus, but I'd say if you don't find it super early, it loses its value very, very quickly. This is not a length of game city state, in my opinion. The next industrial city state is going to be Buenos Aires. And now their bonus is your bonus resources behave like luxury resources, granting one amenity per resource. This is massive. This is one of those things, it doesn't sound like a lot when you first read it, but Buenos Aires, if you got stone, bananas, fish, all those things that are pretty common, and you just improve one, that's an amenity. And getting up to 20% yields, like static level, is one of those things that is going to just absolutely speed up your game like massively. And the thing that really keeps you from reaching that 20% in your capital a lot of times is your small cities, the cities that you've just settled, that have like one or two population. They need an amenity. So a lot of times the luxuries that could be going to your capital are going to those cities. So settling a city is actually dropping the yields of your empire overall. But if you can settle a city that has like a single population, and on the turn you settle it, improve like a stone, all of a sudden it has like it covers its own amenity cost. So this is going to be the first A tier industrial city state, and this is length of game. If you find them in ancient era, it's helping out because you're already getting the minus 10% when you're settling cities, unless you settle on the luxury. But even endgame, this mixed with the Classic Republic Legacy card can cover so many amenity needs for simple cities that like like I said, it's one of those things you initially read the ability, it doesn't seem like much, but once you actually think about it in practice, this is really good. There obviously there are situations where it won't matter as much if you are playing a civilization that has like an amenity bonus or something like that. But in most cases, this is going to provide an awful lot to advance you towards the end. So this is going to fall squarely in A tier, in my opinion. Next city state is going to be Cardiff, and their bonus is cities receive 2 power for every harbor building. That right there is the problem. For the majority of the game, you don't have power needs, and by the end of the game, there's solar panels, there's wind turbines, there's industrial zone buildings. This just doesn't have a home. Like it's nice, like it's nice if you have a harbor in your spaceport city. You're able to do one more powered laser where you don't need like a solar panel and stuff. But to invest envoys in this city state for anything other than utility purposes, early, even mid game is just an absolute waste. This is going to be the very first, I guess, C tier city state. Like it's utility purposes only. It just never has a home. It never has a real use. The next city state is Hong Kong. Hong Kong gives you 20% bonus production towards city projects in all of your cities. This is another one of those ones. It doesn't seem like a lot. Plus 20% production towards city projects seems very innocuous. But when you consider the end game of almost every victory type is either spamming theater square projects for culture, spamming campus and spaceport projects for science. For your domination games, you're going to be spamming a lot of commercial hub and harbor projects to keep your gold up. This is one of those things. Once again, it doesn't seem like a lot, but getting 20% more production into the thing that you're going to start spamming about mid game is huge. Also, early game, if you find this, getting 20% more production to Holy Site prayers if you're going for a religion, or if you're just filling in turns on like a commercial hub or harbor project in between important builds, this is going to help advance the game. I don't think this is S tier, but this is going to be very high A tier just because this is one of those things. It doesn't help you from turn one, but once you get into the meat of the game and when you're looking at how you actually achieve victory, this city state is going to help you in every victory in every game. It's just very, very good. Johannesburg is the next industrial city state, and their bonus is cities receive +1 production for every improved resource type. After researching industrialization, you get +2 production. Um, that's nothing. This is nothing. Yeah, I get it. It's like one or two well, in the early game, it's you add one production to every resource tile. Well, the first improved resource tile, I guess, is the better way to say it. But realistically, like what? That's 3 production at most in your average city, 4 or 5 if you like settled like a perfect city. You're going to use envoys for that. Why? It's such a small bonus for the envoys that this is definitely C tier. I mean, even like at early game, the production is not enough to matter. End game, 2 production is laughable. Like your average trade routes be providing more production than a fully improved city at that point. Well, a fully improved city getting the bonus from this if you look at how many resources that you have. So it's just a terrible trade-off for envoys. This is definitely going to be in C tier. Mexico City is going to be the next city state, and their bonus is industrial zone and entertainment complex and water parks districts reach 3 tiles further. Um, yeah, this is C tier. I gotta be honest. Industrial zones come too late. Entertainment centers, the extra distance is nice, but they're third district at best in most cities, so it's gonna be late game when you're getting this. And by that point, when you start building a lot of entertainment centers, unless you're playing like a commure or somebody who's very, very high population, you're not gonna have enough entertainment complexes out for it to matter. You they'll usually be reaching democracy before you can see any real value out of this. And this is considering if you're going for like a sub 200 once again. So like you like it just doesn't have a home. Early game, it provides nothing. You're not going to have industrial zones or entertainment complexes out. For the vast majority of the game, and end game, it's honestly just not providing enough. This is the pure definition of a utility city state. The final industrial city state is Singapore. And Singapore's bonus is you receive two production for every foreign civilization they have a trade route to. That once again, that's just bad. International trade routes are not good for the majority of the game. They aren't good until you reach Weiselbakken or democracy. And that's like pretty late game. By that point, two more production isn't going to do much. And the other reality is, for the vast majority of the game, you're only going to be able to reach one, maybe two civilizations with most cities. So once again, this is just one of those things. The bonus it provides is so bad that I don't understand like how they thought this was worth the envoys. Like, because consider if you are playing a science game, you're going to want most of your international trade routes going to the person you have a research alliance with. So you're not going to want to send it to multiple civilizations. The science is going to be more important to you than two extra production in that city. In a culture game, by the time you're sending international trade routes, the production doesn't matter anymore. Is sort of the problem. This is another one that just doesn't really have a home or a purpose at any point when you're trying to just win as fast as possible. This is also just a utility city state. So that was the industrial city states. Thanks for watching my video. If you want to click to follow the playlist, I'll be posting all of the city state categories and ranking them as well. Thank you for watching, and bye.